and welcome to a new season of the Oddity Archive. And as is customary, I like to kick off each season with how I spent my summer. And if you follow me regularly, you know that a lot has been going on personally for me, and it's been getting worse, and I think it's going to keep getting worse, unfortunately. But it's meant that I've had to set my sights a good bit lower this year. So this year, all I really wanted to do was to try and improve upon my legendarily awful soldering skills. And spoiler alert, I'm not ready for prime time yet. I don't know if I ever will be. But also, in case you can't tell, this is the last thing I'm shooting for this episode. I'm not doing any box segments this time. But I did put together 4 items: this, this, and this. And I got me a fancy pants new soldering iron and ultimately a smoke extractor because I got sick of trying to blow smoke away from me. I'm used to emitting my own smoke if you've watched me long enough. But anyway, I did wind up going down a bit of a rabbit hole too over the summer because I realized there are just a ton of gaps in my knowledge with regards to electronics. And I guess that's to be expected. I come from the content side of things. I come from the artiste side of things. A lot of this tech junk has been just out of necessity, especially in the last few years. So I've also spent a lot of time just kind of reading and trying to study a bit and trying to piece everything together instead of just whatever stray bits I learned in ham radio training and dinking around with old VCRs. But otherwise, I'm going to let my past self fill you in a little better here. So take it away, past Benny boy. Well, I can just about guarantee I'm going to get some pretty serious guff for this one. And yes, I'm in my creaky old office chair here. Anyway, I had to look it up. Early 2017, I put out what may be the single most infamous Ben's Junk video, and that was on my little Learn to Solder kit, a little $20 cheap Chinese thing. And it didn't go that well. I mean, I worked on it a bit, and I actually still have one of the test flashlights, and it's a very weak bulb, but I did, get some degree of success eventually. I mean, I'm never going to win any awards for that handiwork. But from there, I've soldered some stuff here and there, and I'm just not good at it. And over time, I've kind of realized maybe it's not just necessarily my own lack of skill, but it's the gear I'm using. That little $20 kit that I mentioned, I saved the little 25-watt iron. It needs a serious cleaning. But yeah, this is equivalent to maybe a $5 iron. And sometimes I could fix stuff as needed, sometimes not, and I would clean and tip tin and all that stuff. And just sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But the most common problem was I was winding up with not enough heat. So I figured, well, maybe it's partially the gear I'm using. Now, unfortunately, I've had a very expensive year this year, so I had to set my sights a little lower than one of the nicer stations, which I'm probably underqualified for anyway. But I was seeing some good reviews online from Adrian's Digital Basement, and some of those dudes on the Pine Sill. And even though it's a bit more technical than I would necessarily want in an iron, complete with settings and using USB-C for a power source and all, I figured, well, at least I can dial in what temperature I want on this, and it's got some safety features on it, and I'm not just playing around with some real plain iron and all. So yeah, that's where I'm heading with this. I still have one of the little flashlight doohickeys from the Learn to Solder kit, so I figured that'd be as good a place as any to start. And otherwise, I did load up on some just, real cheap little practice kits to just try stuff out on. But the ultimate goal is, it irritates me to no end that I, on a semi-regular basis, have to send my endless stock of non-working, semi-working equipment off to get maybe just a capacitor or two replaced, because I suck that much with a soldering iron. So, yeah, I'm convinced it's more of a talent than a skill, but I'm gonna see if I can get myself to something passable on the skill level. Now, that does not mean I'm gonna start, just whipping a soldering iron around on some of my gear that needs fixed. But I'd like to work myself up to the point where at least some of it I can do it myself and save only the real big important stuff, like the Sony skip field video units. Send those off to really get properly worked on, and me work on some of the lower level stuff myself. So anyway, I have not actually tried this little pine sill yet, but I'm hoping it works. And again, I stocked up on stuff that if I screw it up, big freaking deal. Otherwise, I guess the only thing left for me to do is just experiment a bit. I'll kick into montage mode here and minimize the amount of swearing you have to hear. Keeping it more or less at factory settings. I did adjust the sensitivity a little though. So we'll turn this on. Okay, I am only doing this weird hatchet job tape down thing for camera angle purposes. Okay, that looks reasonably happy. I'm really gonna have to invest in a smoke extractor though. I do not like that. Okay, I've officially made the world's worst contact. But that's why we experiment and why Benny Boy isn't using any of his good stuff on this. I just realized that I completely skipped a step. I forgot to make contact on the other side of the battery pad. Can you tell it's been 7.5 years since I touched one of these things? This is so not gonna work. I can tell that I've... Yeah. Yeah. I'll see if I can resurrect it, but I kind of doubt it. But again, the point of this exercise is just learning, trial and error, all that good stuff. Well, I just went kind of unhinged, and I just forced myself to just do it over and over again and clean the traces and just absolutely go to town. I'm still not going to win any prizes for that, but through sheer tenacity, I got something to show for it. I've also got a massive mess on my hands. It's starting to get a little late here, but nonetheless, I am going to try and at least get started on the next one of these little doohickey projects that I just picked up cheap on Amazon. So, in this case, allegedly, this is supposed to be 5 LEDs, my Achilles heel at the moment. And it's supposed to light sequentially, and I guess this is a little microphone. And I have the world's tiniest battery, and the polarity's not marked, so I don't think it really matters. but I am using the pretty pictures to help me out. There is a schematic on the back, but I'm not being facetious here. Something just doesn't seem quite right about it, but schematics aren't really my realm of expertise, but I do have at least a reference on them if I need to. Now, admittedly, for these resistors, I don't know how to read resistor values, so I had to pump this into one of those little calculators online, but I do have them marked so I know which one goes where. And otherwise, it's just an issue of, at the very least, getting this started. And after my little flashlight thing, at least I'm confident enough to know that as long as I don't burn a trace on the board, I think I can fix mistakes as need be. But again, these are all just cheapy things I found online. So anyway, I'm going to shut up here and just get to work, see how far I get before I decide to call it a night. Yeah, I did a rotten job with that. I've been kind of half experimenting with just putting a bit of solder on the iron and then just trying to drop it onto the board to cut down on some of these messes that I've been creating, but I don't think I'm succeeding all that much. Let's make some more mess, shall we? Well, this is interesting. I checked and double and triple and quadruple checked the polarity on this microphone that my camera refuses to focus on. And I know that I have the polarity right. I'm getting a good consistent reading in one direction and then just a mess and ultimately overload on the other consistently. But this only fits one way, so I guess I'm just gonna stick with the diagram. That seems kind of odd, but they may have the polarity mismarked on here. Well, that was sort of one of my prettier ones, maybe. Okay, one last quick little update here tonight. I did indeed have the polarity wrong on this thing, which I guess is not a battery. But yeah, I can't test any further. I don't have any clip leads or anything to hook it to properly test out here. Well, here I am picking up 3 days, 3 nights after the last bit. That was Tuesday night. It is now Friday night. It's been kind of a rough week, but I did do a live stream last night, so that's part of why I was not working on this. But anyway, when I finished up late Tuesday night, I went to Amazon and ordered some supplies and stuff, and first and foremost, I had no means of testing out this thing. And I think I did a bad job of putting in perspective just how small this is. So if my handiwork seemed extra globby on this, I think it's just more a side effect of the size and having the camera really, really tight on it. And I intentionally left the leads long on this so I could have some wiggle room if this does not work, if I need to fix something and, just try it again. But anyway, among the items I ordered on Tuesday night were a smoke extractor thingy, instead of me having to just, blow away from myself constantly. But I also got a package of these hobbyist battery packs, or containers, whatever you want to call them, so I could test this out. Now, instead of getting the normal kind where I would have to solder or something even more, I got the kind with alligator clip leads on it. So hopefully I can fit it onto the 2 terminals on this sucker and try it out. So anyway, I have got a couple of half-deads here. I'll just go ahead and pop them in here. At least that's nice and easy. Let me zoom in so this can actually be in the shot. Let's see, left side is negative, so let's see if I can do this and keep it some semblance of in the shot. And hopefully they don't touch each other. Okay, so I should be able to turn this on and just start talking and stuff, and then lights come on, have it act as something of an LED meter, a VU meter, more accurately. Let me turn my studio lights off here. All right, let me kick this on. And, oh, hey, quietly, nice and quiet. Yeah, well, she lives, so I guess the only thing left to do is trim the leads, neaten this up a bit, and move on to the next project. And, yep, I wish it would be more like a VU meter instead of just a little novelty light, but for what, $6 or so, I shouldn't expect too much. If I hold a note, oh, that's kind of cool. So if I just sit there and drone, yeah. Well, that's a cute novelty for, I don't know, about 5 minutes. Well, I think I'm going to have to set my sights a bit lower here. Among the stuff I bought, for one, everything is way smaller than I thought it would be. Like, this was going to be the finale for this episode. This is a radio kit. It looks a lot bigger in the pictures online. Like, it should be about the size of a normal bedroom clock radio. So, yeah, I'll save that. I got a little Christmas tree with LEDs. But otherwise, I wanted to try my hand at some surface mount stuff just to see what it was like. But this is what I got. I mean, these are not just way beyond my skills, but I definitely don't have the material to work with this stuff, fine enough solder and a fine enough tip on the iron and so on and so forth. Although I am going to steal those sweet, sweet tweezers out of this. So I guess I'm going to jump straight to, despite it being July, trying to make a Christmas tree. Okay, it looks like absolute hell, and I have intentionally not trimmed anything quite yet. But I have been at this for about an hour and 45 minutes now, believe it or not. I think that's some sort of record for slow. But by the same token, I've been willfully taking my time with this. Yeah, ain't gonna win no medals for that one. But tomorrow, Saturday, I'm just gonna start fresh tomorrow with the second half of the tree and then the base and all that. But I don't think I've destroyed anything, or if something isn't right, I think it's nothing that can't be repaired at this point. Okay, picking up the next morning here with my less than pretty half a Christmas tree. So, yeah, I'm deliberately not trimming that up or anything until I'm done with this. I just want it to be working first. But anyway, I guess the next goal would be to be the other half of the tree, and then after that, the base that it sits on. So, let's get to it. All right, it's taken me all day. I'm tired, I'm pissed off, and I've burnt the board a couple of times. Little did I know that all this tree stuff had to be welded together. And yeah, I put a resistor in the wrong place. Took me forever to get it back out. So I really don't think anything's going to happen here. But due diligence. Let me widen my shot a bit here. And yep, nothing. There's supposed to be a little microphone there and a mic in and output, and it ain't doing nothing. If I flick all the switches, yeah. Yeah, I kind of figured as much. All right, picking back up here early Sunday afternoon now. And I was so tired and so disgusted, both with myself and with this stupid little tree, that I basically just said a few words and turned the camera off. Now, just a few seconds after I turned the camera off, I had forgotten to turn the power switch back off on the tree, and this thing started smoking. So obviously something got installed wrong. And I went back and earlier today and checked the instructions and stuff, and all the resistors seemed to be correct value, correct direction, and all capacitors seemed to be okay. LEDs, I was being a little leery with that early on, making sure I had the direction of those correct. And yeah, I think I did everything right, but obviously I didn't. But while I was working, I found myself wishing I had some like 6337 solder for that nice narrow melting point. So the things holding these two parts of the tree together. I really found myself wishing I had some of that solder, and just a finer solder as opposed to the 8/10 of a millimeter stuff that I've got here. I was really wishing for like 6. But yeah, I have found myself missing Micro Center so badly. I used to go there all the time when I lived in Denver, and there's nothing like that around here. As far as I know, in and around Sioux Falls, there is no place to get electronic solder. You can get stuff for welding and all, but not this kind of stuff. So anyway, I just thought I would update a bit here. I have been on, for one, Amazon buying some other solder, which I will not be able to use for this episode because it will not show up quick enough. On that note, last week already, I had ordered some different tips for my iron, different shapes and stuff, but those are coming from, as it turns out, overseas, so those certainly aren't going to be here in the next 24 hours or so. I've got my first ever radio kit here, and the only thing left to do is try it out. Well, when I did the opening segment, I had completely forgotten that trying to keep on brand with Archive, because I've been building up these little projects for a while, I bought a transmitter, not a receiver. So I'm going to just use my little Sony here from the AM stereo episode, the last one I did. And this thing did come with a microphone with an 1/8" plug on it. But where was this when I was working on the whole house transmitter? So in the name of being able to differentiate sounds, I'm just going to use the patch cable that came with it. I finally have the Archive soundtrack on my old iPod, so I don't have to worry about a CD player. And let's just see where this goes. I'm going to have to turn the studio lights off, though, because there's always interference. Okay, power switched on, but I got nothing. Is this going to start smoking on me, too? Well, showing what a noob I am with this stuff, I'm not really sure what I did wrong. I tightened everything and properly installed the battery pack and stuff. But no joy. I turned this on and nothing's miswired as far as I can tell. Nothing's getting warm. It's just cold. Nothing's happening. I mean, my solder work is not great, to put it kindly. But, no bridged connections or anything. I need to take one quick little stab at the Christmas tree here, see if I can't unbridge some of those connections. I didn't realize I was being that impatient last night. But I just can't seem to get any love from this one. Okay, the radio was such a failure, just in the name of due diligence and maybe having another success. I went back and I took care of the bridged stuff on here and cleaned it up a little. I still think I'm in for a smoky treat here, but I'm gonna hit the power button, make sure it's in my line of sight, and just kind of keep a hand on the batteries if I can have them in the shot some way somehow. But the only thing I can think of that I installed wrong might be the diode, because it's so tiny you can't read the markings on it, and the instructions, the pictures are so blurry that I just kind of went with what looked best in the pictures. But nonetheless, I'm expecting no joy. Oh, I had a little joy there. So there's a short somewhere. Got my hand on the batteries. Oh, I see what it's doing. It's responding to me. Well, that might actually be a winner. Batteries are still nice and cool. And yeah, I guess I'll hook something up to it, see what it does. So yeah, I think I just accidentally created a short in there. Yeah, seems to be happy. Okay, the sun's starting to go down. That's why there's this kind of shadow going on here. Anyway, I have the studio lights turned off on purpose. And since it's Christmas stuff, I guess I'll put some Christmas music in here, whatever I can get away with, I think at least. And this still kind of bugs me because it wouldn't have been perfect if that transmitter worked. Then I could have that transmitting some weird ass Christmas music into a radio to be picked up by the tree, and then the tree would blink along with it. But yeah, we're stuck with just this one bit. But let's see if the audio input and output work. Got my favorite pair of passive speakers hooked up, and since Martin Mull passed away recently, I thought we'd do a little Santa Fly, if I can get away with it. Anyway, let's see what happens here. Let me turn this back on. Here we go.
Oh, hello there, little boy. Get up here on Santa's knee and tell me what you want to get. I want to get down.
Little Freddie, little Alec, little Susie, little Sally. Better get yourself together. He don't like no dilly-dally.
I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this episode, and I'm not even going to attempt any box segments this time out. But I guess I have to take my wins where I can get them. 3 out of 4. And I'm still a little peeved that my little transmitter didn't work. The one thing that I wanted to work more than anything else, the most Archivian item of all, just not happening. And of course this thing looks more like an improvised explosive device from some bad 90s direct-to-video movie. But for what it's worth, I have dinked with this a little more and tried to re-clean the board. I had already cleaned it the first time before, the initial testing. And I also tried to tap into the power with one of my alligator clip box things. I know that sounds kind of lame, but since there was some exposed wire and some sort of contact, I thought I would try and tap in. That didn't work, so I know the battery box on the transmitter is not the culprit. I tried to up the power by running both out of this and the transmitter proper, thinking maybe that 3 volts wasn't enough. No, just not happening. But anyway, I suppose I should actually turn my stuff on here. And let's see. There we go. It may or may not be all that visible. And of course, my little flashlight, which is anything but automatic. So yeah, final thoughts. One, I actually really like this soldering iron, the Pine Sill. I didn't think I would like a more computery, one. To me, firmware and soldering irons don't go together, but I've been pleasantly surprised. I like the temperature control. I await the other styles of tips to show up in the mail. Yeah, this is my new iron. I really like it. Otherwise, I don't think I'm ready for prime time yet. I've got some more kits in the pipeline, and I think it might just have to be one of those things I do, one of every couple months. Probably not on archive, not publicly, just to keep having at it and work on it a bit more. As it stands, I'm going to just stick with the through-hole stuff. I'm not going to attempt any surface mount stuff, and that should really bring you up to date here. So I'm sure this has been an excruciating episode for some of you if you made it this far. But if you've made it this far, congratulations. Anyway, I am going to wrap it up now. It should be record ripoffs next time I do a regular archive episode. Granted, that's probably about a month down the pike, but it is coming.
Rocking around the Christmas tree at the Christmas party hop.